Tonight we're gonna have a funky time.
Welcome back to the Tin Man Podcast, where we know a little bit about a lot and a lot about a little bit. All right, so I think this is the fourth and last scenario from the Rockefeller Foundation scrubbed website. They renewed it since this was done in 2010. I've done Hack Attack, Lockstep, and Clever Together. This one here is called Smart Scramble. So we're not going to get too far in the weeds in explaining it. We're just going to go ahead and read it out. And y'all make your own opinions. But I just wanted the information to be out there because I think it ties into exactly what the hell's going on. Basically the structure of it. So we have Smart Scramble, an economically depressed world in which individuals and communities developed localized, makeshift solutions to a growing set of problems. The global recession that started in 2008 did not trail off in 2010 but dragged onward. Vigorous attempts to jumpstart markets and economies didn't work, or at least not fast enough to reverse the steady downward pull. The combined private and public debt burden hanging over the developed world continued to depress economic activity both there and in developing countries with economies dependent on exporting to formerly rich markets. Without the ability to boost economic activity, many countries saw their debts deepen and civil unrest and crime rates climb. The United States, too, lost much of its presence and credibility on the international stage due to deepening debt, debilitating markets, and distracted governments. It don't read like a story. It's literally reads like a blueprint in what they wanted to do, and it's all done happen, and is happening currently. This in turn led to the fracturing and decoupling of many international collaborations started by or reliant on the U.S.'s continued strength. And you see that now with BRICS. They're breaking off from the dollar. They're trying to de-dollarize the dollar. They're trying to dethrone the world's currency. And we know the reason for that. They want to implement the CBDC, central bank digital currency. China already has it. They implement it in Europe right now. This is why I said they're all in on it. You can't go along with some and not all. You got to be on the same page. Otherwise, it all falls apart. But it goes on to say, it says, also in trouble was China. Their social stability grew more precarious. Depressed economic activity, combined with the ecological consequences of China's rapid growth, started to take their toll, causing the shaky balance that had held since 1989 to finally break down, with their focus trained on managing the serious political and economic instability at home, which is true. The propaganda may say that they're doing well and they're bouncing back, and they're desperate because they rely on the U.S. for consumption. The anti-American establishment in charge now has literally taken us off at independence. So now we're dependent on China's production and manufacturing, and they're dependent on our consumption. Go figure, right? We're supposed to be enemies. It's all lies, man. Everything is lies. It says with their focus trained and managing the serious political and economic instability at home, the Chinese sharply curtailed their investments in Africa and other parts of the developing world. Indeed, nearly all foreign investment in Africa as well as formal institutional flows of aid and other support for the poorest countries, was cut back except in the gravest humanitarian emergencies. Yeah, because China loves humanity. They're so for humanity. Obviously, I'm being facetious. That statement was just fucking joke in itself. They still carry slavery, like physical slavery. Yes, slavery was not abolished in China. It was exacerbated. Overall, economic stability felt so shaky that the occurrence of a sudden climate shock or other disaster would likely send the world into a tailspin. They love putting that climate shit in there. Luckily, those big shocks didn't occur, though there was a lingering concern that they could in the future. Not that anyone had time to think about the future. Present challenges were too pressing. In the developed world, unemployment rates skyrocketed, so did xenophobia. As companies and industries gave the few available jobs to native-born citizens, shunning foreign-born applicants. Well, no shit. Great numbers of immigrants who had resettled in the developed world suddenly found the economic opportunities that had drawn them were now paltry at best. By 2018, London had been drained of immigrants as they headed back to their home countries. Taking their education and skills with them, reverse migration left holes in the communities of departure, both socially and literally, as stores formerly owned by immigrants stood empty. You fucking build a middle class and fix all that shit. Prop up the middle class and really fix all that shit. That's what they're destroying now in America, the middle class. And their homelands needed them. Across the developing world, and especially in Africa, economic survival was now firmly in local hands. With little help or aid coming through official and organized channels, and in the absence of strong trade and foreign currency earnings, most people in the communities had no choice but to help themselves and increasingly one another. Yet survival and success varied greatly by location, not just by country, but by city and community. Communities inside failed states suffered the most. Their poor growing still poorer, with their poor growing still poorer. It's weirdly phrased. In many places, the failures of political leadership and the stresses of economic weakness and social conflict stifled the ability of people to rise above their dire circumstances, or were they held down, forced to not be able to recover. Not surprisingly, across much of the developing world, the rural-urban divide gapped wider. Read that again. Not surprisingly, across much of the developing world, the rural-urban divide gapped wider, as more limited availability and access to resources like IT and trade made survival and self-sufficiency much more challenging for non-urban dwellers. Communications and interactions that formerly served to bridge one family or one village or one student with their counterparts in other places, from emailing to phone calls to web postings, became less reliable. Internet access had not progressed far beyond its 2010 status, in part because the investment dollars needed to build out the necessary infrastructure simply weren't there. When cell phone towers and fiber optic cables broke down, repairs were often delayed by months or even years. As a result, only people in certain geographies had access to the latest communication and internet gadgets, while others became more isolated for lack of such connections. I'll read the insert. The spreading of ideas depends on access to communication, peer groups, and communities of practice. Even if someone has blueprints to make something, they might not have the materials or know-how. Pretty much, you can't make a toaster by yourself. They might not, or where is that? Where am I? Oh yeah. In a world such as this, how do you create an ecosystem of research among the communities? And that was a quote from Jose Gomez Marquez, Program Director of the Innovations of International Health Initiative, the IIH at MIT. But there were silver linings. Government capacity improved in more advanced parts of the developing world, where economies had already begun to generate a self-sustaining dynamic before the 2008-2010 crisis, such as Indonesia, Rwanda, Turkey, and Vietnam. Areas with good access to natural resources, diverse skill sets, and a stronger set of overlapping institutions did far better than others. So did cities and the communities where large numbers of the returnees helped drive change and improvement. Most innovation in these better off places involved modifying existing devices and technologies to be more adaptive to a specific context. But people also found or invented new ways, technological and non-technological, to improve their capacity to survive and, in some cases, to raise their overall living standards. What is that, Accra? In Accra, a returning Ghanaian MIT professor working with resettled pharma researchers helped invent a cheap, edible vaccine against tuberculosis that dramatically reduced childhood mortality across the continent. In Nairobi, returnees launched a local vocational education for all project that proved widely successful and was soon replicated in other parts of the sub-Saharan Africa. Makeshift, quote-unquote, good enough technology solutions addressing everything from water purification and harnessing energy to improve crop yield and disease control emerged to fill the gaps. Communities grew tighter, micro-manufacturing, communal gardens, and patchwork energy grids were created at the local level for local purposes. Many communities took on the aura of co-ops, some even launching currencies designed to boost local trade and bring communities closer together. Nowhere was this more true than in India, where localized experiments proliferated and succeeded or failed, with little connection to or impact on other parts of the country or the world. These developments were encouraging, but also frustrating. In the absence of enduring trade and FDI channels, local experiments and innovations could neither scale nor boost overall growth. For those looking, it was difficult to find or access creative solutions. Scaling was further inhibited by the lack of compatible technology standards, making innovations difficult to replicate. Apps developed in rural China simply didn't work in urban India. High-speed internet access, which gradually emerged in some areas despite weak government or philanthropic support, did help, enabling students to isolated pockets in the developing world to access knowledge and instruction through the written word and other media like video. But the development of tangible devices, products, and innovations continued to lag in places where local manufacturing skills and capacities had not yet scaled. More complex engineering solutions proved even more difficult to develop and diffuse. By 2025, the collaboration was finally improving, with ecosystems of research and sharing, many of them virtual, beginning to emerge. Yet without major progress in global economic integration and collaboration, many worried that good ideas would stay isolated and survival and success would remain a local, not a global or national phenomenon. Many of us are fine with that. It goes on to tell us some headlines, which are probably irrelevant, but I'll run through them anyway. 2013, national medical labs in Southeast Asia herald new diagnostics for native diseases. In 2015, low-cost water purification device halves diarrhea deaths in India. What was this, like fucking 1300s? Diarrhea killing people over there in 2015? 2017, Chinese government pressured as protests spread to 250 cities. Can't wait that to happen. And 2020, returnee innovators struggle to expand sales beyond home markets. 2022, famine haunts Ethiopia again. 2025, VC spending within sub-Saharan Africa triples. 2027, Make Fair Ghana partners. Maker Fair Ghana partners with Idol. Partners with I'm reading this shit wrong. Maker Fair Ghana partners with Idol franchise to spotlight young innovators. Role of philanthropy in the Smart Scramble. Philanthropic organizations look to fund at the grassroots level in order to reach people more quickly and solve short-term problems. The meta goal in this world is to scale up, to identify and build capacity from the individual through the institutional, because without global coordination, innovation cannot scale on its own. Philanthropy requires a keen screening capacity to identify highly localized solutions with specialized pockets of expertise that make partnerships more challenging and transitions between sectors and issues harder to achieve. Philanthropy operations are decentralized, headquarters are less important, and the ability to quickly access the different parts of the world and reconfigure teams on short notice is key. Office space is rented by the day or week, not the month or year, because more people are in the field testing, evaluating, and reporting on Myriad pilot projects. Myriad pilot projects. So we have technology in the Smart Scramble. Economic and political instability fractured societies in a developed world. Resources for technology development diminished, and talented immigrants are forced to return to their countries of origin. As a result, capacity and knowledge are distributed more widely, allowing many small pockets of do-it-yourself innovation to emerge. Low-tech, good enough solutions abound, cobbled together with whatever materials and designs can be found. However, the transfer of cutting-edge technology through foreign direct investment is rare. Structural deficiencies in the broader innovation ecosystem in accessing capital markets and a stable internet, and in the proliferation of local standards limit wider growth and development. Technology trends and applications we might see. Energy technology improvements are geared more towards efficiency, getting more from existing sources of power than new generation technologies. Through some local improvements in generating and distributing wind and geothermal energy do occur. Breakdowns in the global medicine supply chain accelerate the emergence of locally bioengineered super strength homeopathic remedies, which replace antibiotics in the dispensaries of many developing world hospitals. Plants, man. Plants are the basic ingredients to all of our medicine. God put the plants on earth for a reason. There's medical properties to all plants. Believe it or not, even poison ivy. Let's see. Widespread micro manufacturing using 3D printers enables the fabrication of replacement components for engines and machines, allowing perpetual maintenance to compensate for broken trade links. Garden allotments proliferate in megacities as new urban dwellers seek to supplement a scarce food supply and maintain their agricultural heritage. Technically advanced communities use mesh networks to ensure high-speed internet access, but most rural poor remain cut off from the access. All right, that'll do it. That was the rundown on Smart Scramble. If you want to look further into the website, this is pretty much going to be it for me. Yeah, there you have it. The 4 scenarios for the future of technology and international development by the Rockefeller Foundation. This has pretty much been their plan, starting with John D. Rockefeller Jr. If you haven't seen the videos on that one, I've done 1 or 2 videos on him also, which I have tons of research that I'm working on in a book. As soon as I can find out how to write a book, I'll just keep doing the research until I can find somebody to help me out with that. But other than that, that'll do it for this video. See me in the next one. If you haven't seen the other ones, I think one of them's name is The Beginning, and the other one is I think that's it. Other than that, just go through the log, go through the catalog, check out the ones that you want to see. If you want to support, like, sub, share, donate if possible. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.